Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking Into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Talking Into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I'm your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the cmsnetwork.com. We are live at those four locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and as cheesy as it is, smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. If you'd like to catch video replays of the show, you can check out our YouTube channel, or you can go to the YouTube channel of the CMS Network. And if you would like to download audio versions of the show, just Google Talking Into Infinity Podcast, and we are on any number of platforms that you can think of. So check it out. Enjoy the show. We got a big banging episode coming up here tonight. This is going to be an absolute blast. Let me bring on Mr. Brian Hendrickson, my not-so-esteemed co-host. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. I had an awesome weekend. I went to a killer show of Kill Switch at the Agora Theater. And the irony, and I don't know if this is irony, but literally 1 year ago, almost exactly, I got to see this band Haken. And I think we might be talking about them in a minute or two here.
I think we might. I mean, yes. Later on, we've got the mighty Chris Akin coming on to discuss Metallica's new record, 72 Seasons. So we will be doing that. But we got more important things to get to than Lars Ulrich's shitty drumming. So as you teased, Brian, without further ado, let's bring on a very special guest, Mr. Connor Green of Haken. What's going on, man? How are you?
Hello. Well, I'd like to talk about how's the Killswitch show?
Dude, Kill Switch is always amazing, man. I mean, they just put on a great show time and time. I don't know how Jesse does it, can sing like that nonstop all the time. Are you guys fans of them?
I've been a fan since I was like 12. I love them. I still am. I have Joel Stretzel's signature guitar over here. I love them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where are you located then? Where are you calling from right now?
I'm from Indianapolis, so yeah, I'm just a few hours from you, really.
Awesome.
Wow. We'll be out in your neck of the woods for the Pantera show in July.
Oh yeah, I should probably go to that, but I won't because I won't be here. I'll be in festivals, whatever, Europe.
I was gonna say you'll be a little busy touring and doing that whole making money thing.
yeah, if that's what you want to call it. That's a generous way to put it.
So speaking of which, I'm going to bring up a comment before we get into the interview. This is our very good friend Cale McLeish, and he is in Australia, and so he's like 11 hours behind or something. So it's first thing in the morning for him over there.
Okay.
And he says, "Hello, Connor. Greetings from Western Australia. Hope to see you back in our country someday soon-ish."
Oh, sure.
So right off the bat, and Cale is an amazing guy. He's literally the first person to ever check out our show. He's a huge music fan. He's a great singer in his own right. He is really upset that bands do not go to Australia. And I keep telling him, like, dude, you have to understand the logistics of how difficult and costly it is to get over there. So while he is tuned in and we have an actual international touring musician with us, talk about how difficult it really is to get to a place like Australia.
Oh, well, it is the most difficult to get to, obviously. Ticket prices for airlines are through the roof. Flying with gear is crazy. You got to rent the gear over there. There's just so many costs involved that I'm sure loads of other bands have discussed ad nauseum. But it's impossible to get over that. We've done it twice, I think, and I think twice with Haken and once with when we were doing the Shattered Fortress with Mike Portnoy. And it's just a nightmare getting over there. But when we do, it's great. It's always rewarding. But I think we are going next year. It's not, official, blah, whatever. But that's the plan anyway.
Well,
And
you just made Kale's day.
Oh, well, I think if he's Western Australia, Perth's probably going to be on the routing, I would guess. So last time we played there, it was like 150 people. But it was so much fun. We couldn't like stay awake on stage. We were so exhausted. But boy, pumped to go back.
There you go, Kale. There's your answer, Kale. Now you know why it's hard to get over there, but now you know they're coming back.
Yeah.
So this is going to be his favorite episode of the show ever. Officially.
Yeah. Try and make it worth his while.
Yeah.
Wait, we have to clarify with Alex Neal. We haven't started our Metallica yet. That's later.
Yeah.
He's talking about Shadows Follow. What are your thoughts on Shadows Follow, Connor?
Oh
Yeah,
boy, you're
like
talking to the
that
wrong guy.
Yep.
No one's in my opinion.
Yep. Well, our good buddy Robert Reams checks in. He says, been a fan of Haken since day one. Second favorite band behind Dream Theater. Then last year, for the first time, y'all opened for Symphony X.
Oh, yeah.
So, and you know what? Why don't we start there? Why don't you talk a little bit about that? I mean, Symphony X is kind of a legacy band, and they're they're kind of considered in that prog genre a little bit, I would say, but you guys are definitely really proggy. So talk a little bit about that tour, and before we get into Fauna and all the stuff you're doing with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't say too much about it because it was a while ago. My memory's all foggy. But what I can say is it was a great time playing with those guys. I was not terribly familiar with their music. I was just because I was born in '93, and I was a little younger when they were pumping out all their tunes, and they're still pumping out tunes, I guess. But it's been a while. I guess it's their last record. But I think for me, the most amazing thing was just watching Michael Romeo play the way he does. I've never seen someone play like that in person. I was floored. He's such a nice guy, down to earth guy, and that was probably the coolest part for me. And Russell Allen's just one of the best vocalists to ever exist. And boy, oh boy, yeah, it's cool. It's cool playing with a band like that because we're so musically different. I think. I mean, obviously there's similarities here and there, but they've got a whole different world of influences than we do, and having a diverse bill was cool. I think. As opposed to just having three of the same bands playing, quirky prog stuff or heavy metal or whatever you're doing. It was rewarding.
For sure.
I was at that show with Robert, and I thought you guys, and I'm not just blowing smoke, I thought you guys were the perfect opener for that band to go on right before them.
Yeah.
And I had just literally gotten turned on to you probably 3 or 4 months before because people were talking about the Shattered Fortress thing, and then it was like, oh my God, and Symphony X was coming, and I had tickets, and Haken's coming, so I started listening, and I got a sneak preview of one of the first times you guys played Nightingale, and I was just blown away.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a hard track to play live. That's probably the hardest track that I can think of that we have, just because there's a lot of polyrhythms and all we have a click track in our head. It's a nightmare trying to follow it. It's just like I don't know where to, because you listen to the record, there's a groove, there's a cymbal playing this, but
right,
there's a lot of layers happening, and that's a tough one.
So I mean, why don't we start there? I mean, because you guys were doing that on that tour, and I mean, that was the first song I'm assuming that was written for the Fauna record. Am I correct in saying that?
That's correct.
So was that something? Were you guys in progress with a bunch of stuff, or is that kind of something where you wrote Nightingale and then it kind of influenced the direction that the rest of the songs on the new record would take?
Yeah. Well, so what happened was, and I'm a tough guy to ask because I'm the only one here in America, and the rest of the guys are in the UK. But typically, we all get together, we write, blah blah blah. It's collaborative. But for that one, all the guys got together in the UK, and they were writing. Let's say I'm trying to think of all the first demos. You had Nightingale, Alphabet of Me was in there, Simple Eternal Beings, like all these demos floating around. And I think at that point in time, that was the Nightingale was the one that was the most fleshed out. And so we wanted to introduce Peter Jones, our new keyboard player, and original keyboard player.
Right.
And so we just kind of worked on that one first. We're like, okay, let's get this one, really nailed down and polished. And we did that. But yeah, there were others floating around at that time. I think Charlie hit us with Elephants Never Forget not too long after that, and we were just like, wow, great.
Talk about that song. I was telling John, that is like, I mean, you guys have a lot of long songs, and that's a long one too. But man, the way that starts out with like that Queen kind of piano influence, and it just takes off. How does that process work on those? I know you weren't there, but is it just like, is that totally flushed out by one guy and everybody just adds everything in? How do they not step on each other's toes with that many things going on?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working together for so long. We kind of just naturally know how to take one person's ideas and kind of just add our own little spice to it. Sometimes ideas are incredibly fleshed out, like Elephants Never Forget, because Charlie, guitar player, had just more or less written that whole thing. And of course, we added bits and bobs there, and vocal melody here, vocal melody there, blah blah blah. But sometimes it's a big epic song like that one guy comes up with. And sometimes it's more collaborative, where it's just, Pete and Ray in a studio working on a groove, and, they'll get, a verse done one day, and then they'll send that to someone, and then they'll add here and there. So it depends on the song. But for Elephants Never Forget, that was pretty, not a finished product, but very close when Charlie presented it.
So you mentioned that obviously, you're the only one here in the States, and everybody else is over in England. So I saw some stuff where you guys rented a house for a week to once all the ideas were kind of brought together. So where do you fall in with that writing? Because they can all get together at any time, but you kind of have to do the whole fly across an ocean thing.
Yeah, well, for previous albums, it wasn't as big a deal. Like for Affinity, when I first joined, I was over in the UK, and we worked on ideas then. But a lot of the ideas, even when the guys all, they all live fairly near to each other, even then, a lot of it's done over email anyway. For Fauna, I think it was a bit different, where Pete and Ray and Rich would get together and work in one room. But even then, I'll work on a bass part here, work on a bit there. Like for Virus, I worked on like the one of the first drafts of Psy Complex back in the day before sending it to Richard, and Richard made it, good, all that kind of thing. So it's, I just kind of slot in where I can and add bits here, add bits there. Fauna was kind of, since it was during the pandemic, the writing, I was busy here in the US. I got married over the pandemic. I bought a house, all this stuff, and the guys were working on music during that whole period. And it just depends on I guess, on every record's different. It's I'll work more on, I feel like with Affinity, I worked on it quite a bit with the other guys, and less so with Fauna, just because of the distance. It's just how it naturally came. But it's not like it mattered too much, because the guys are amazing writers, and they did great work with it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's get to Fauna. I mean, that is the new record. Talk a little bit about this tour. I mean, you guys are out there headlining. You got a kick-ass instrumental band, Arch Echo, opening for you. So talk a little bit about the tour you guys are undertaking here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So that it's our first headline tour since I don't know, our first U.S. headline tour, U.S. and Canada, since 2018, 2019, I'm guessing. So we haven't played a lot of our, I suppose, classic material, like not that classic, but older material. We haven't done that in a while, and of course we got a new album now, so we've got a lot to choose from. And the more albums you write, the less, or the more, I should say, more complicated it gets to come up with set lists that please everyone. So we're just like, we can't really please everyone. Let's just choose songs we want to play. So we've got a set list done now, and there's a lot of, maybe the most brutal set list ever. It's like every tune is just so tricky, and there's a lot of long ones, which I hope our fans typically like, because we have a few long tunes. And
Sure.
Arch Echo seems like a great band to open. They're I mean, some of the best players in the world, and curious to see how the dynamic is musically. Like when they play just a virtuosic set into our thing, it should meld really well. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, I'm excited to play for a long time on stage. As with Symphony X, I think we played for 45 minutes, an hour. I don't know what it was, but it feels so short. So get up there and play for an hour 45, 2 hours, whatever it is. So that'll be nice. Yeah.
So because the sets in the songs are so intricate, does that make it like kind of impossible to be like, all right, you can't just magically swap out 4 songs here and there because because you guys are so technical with that and want to have it down?
Yeah, I mean that definitely plays into it. I think we decided a couple years ago. It's like we want to really nail the set list, and these tunes, like you say, they're tough to play. Practicing them takes a while before you're really comfortable with them, and you get in the rhythm of a set list over time. At least we do. So we've just decided, let's just keep it. This is the set list. This is what it's going to be. We're not going to be like, we're not feeling like this song's working. Let's play another one. Let's, throw this in. Nah, we have the hour 45, whatever it is, set. And by the end of the tour, it's just muscle memory. And I think you deliver a better product to the audiences, in my opinion.
That makes sense.
Yeah, for us, not for other bands that do that. Other bands that can do that, that's great. We just we just prefer it that way.
Yeah, it's got to be difficult to swap that stuff out. I mean, even for bands that are playing like standard like 4/4 rock stuff, it's like when you're out on the road, it's got to be difficult to. You're doing other things. Like you're not just out there playing, eating, and sleeping. Like that's kind of is the thing, but it's like that's a lot of music to remember. And doing what you guys do, that's got to be impossible. Like, you know what? Maybe we'll swap out 3 of these 10-minuters for another 3 10-minuters,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if a band like Dream Theater ever did that. I haven't seen them live. Well, I've only seen them like 2 or 3 times, but I didn't see them like back in the day, Portnoy era Dream Theater. I don't know if they ever did that. Did they do that? Where they were just
that was
switching
actually
in and out?
That was actually an interesting thing, and it's kind of like a thing with the fans now because they have a static set list. Now that Mike Portnoy has left, but back then, like Mike would actually swap shit out all the time, and it was kind of a bear. And a couple of the guys kind of made reference to it every once in a while here and there, like like this is kind of a pain in the ass.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, I know playing with Mike, all those years ago. He's an interesting guy. Like my mind doesn't work like his does. He can just remember a song that he hasn't played in 10 years. And not many people are like that. I'm certainly not. So I have to think about it and prepare and all that stuff. So I think he's a special guy musically, obviously.
Yeah. Well, let's get to Fauna here because that's the album you guys are promoting.
Sure.
It's not exactly a concept record, but it does kind of explore a theme. Like every song is related to an animal. So talk about that a little bit and how that came about, the whole concept of the thing.
Yeah. So I think, this is going to be tough for me to answer because, again, I don't remember how it happened, which is the worst thing ever. To like how'd you come up with it? Well, I have no idea. I remember watching, I think Charlie there was like oh God, this is gonna be the worst. I'm trying to remember now. I'm trying to remember live on it with people watching. It was like I think Charlie and Ray. There was some sort of photo floating around of something that was like a picture. Well, there you go. That's the answer.
But see, that's kind of cool though. It's like if you're not, it's like it's like almost like an outsider's perspective of it. So maybe talk about it from that angle. Like when your guys come to you and say, "Hey, man, we're gonna do this record and every song is about an animal." It's like what goes through your head? You're like, okay, like what? Like,
well, yeah,
what did you
wasn't.
think?
I love the concept. I think it was a Charlie thing. I don't remember specifically, but. Yeah, I think I remember reading it on our WhatsApp thread and thought, that's a great idea. And, obviously all the guys' gears start turning. And we spent a few days, like on our U.S. tour with Symphony X even, coming up with like different, like what's cool, what are cool animals? Kind of like, which is like such a kindergartner thing to talk about. Let's see, jellyfish are cool. Maybe wildebeests are cool. Literally, that was a conversation we had. And there were already ideas, like Nightingale obviously was already cemented at that point. But so we just kind of talked about that for a while and came up with fun ideas based around very simple conversations. which was neat. And I ended up, my brain kind of gravitated towards a fox because I like foxes, and there was a movie I saw that I loved called The Mad Fox. It was like, I like old Japanese cinema, so it was, um, I watched that movie again. I was like, I really want to kind of write lyrics based around that movie. It's an interesting story. I like the idea. So I had never written lyrics before, so I just tried it, and yeah, that was how Beneath the White Rainbow came about.
That's
the
awesome.
lyrics, anyway. Yeah.
I was just about to ask, like, did you have an animal that you actually got suggested, or one that you really? And there you go. It's a fox. So
Yeah, it was the fox song. It's not very like explicitly a fox, but that's what it is.
close enough, right?
Yeah.
Look at Kale's all excited, man. He says, "Are you planning to make those awesome Fauna shirts part of the merch for this tour? I really want one for work."
Yes, that is the idea. That is the idea. We didn't think people would love them that much. We've got, I mean, dozens of messages like, oh, you gotta, which doesn't sound like that many messages. Let's say thousands of messages about these shirts, and I was like, oh, amazing. That's neat. So yeah, that's kind of inspired us to get going with that.
Well, I mean, the album art really is pretty striking. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really involved. I mean, talk about that a little bit. This is really a very unique album cover. It really jumps out. It's if you're in a record store and that comes along your line of sight, that's definitely the one that's popping out. So
Yeah, that's kind of the idea. I mean, we had just done Vector and Virus from a few years back, double concept album, very minimalist artwork, and even Affinity to a degree is fairly minimalist. Not a huge color palette. Kind of a 1980s aesthetic. So I think the idea was like, oh, let's do something different. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's like over the top, blah blah blah. I mean, that's not the way I'd put it at all. But it's very colorful, and it's obviously a different idea to what we'd done previously, and representing the animals as sort of anthropomorphic beings was an interesting idea. And again, this was a Charlie thing. Charlie just had a field day with coming up with little Easter egg with Dan Goldsworthy, who did the art, who did an amazing job, obviously, coming up with little Easter eggs and the wallpaper. There's so much detail in the wallpaper itself.
Mhm.
As far as Easter eggs and this, that, and the other, that it's quite the undertaking, I would say. You got the elephant in there with the king. I mean, wow.
yeah, there's a lot to take in there, man. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you got the
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was gonna say you got the snakes on the canes over there, and I mean,
Yeah. Each band member is represented in the wallpaper, which is neat, and I mean, every little detail is purposeful, and Dan and Charlie did an amazing job.
Isn't Dan isn't he more known for death metal covers? If I
think
remember,
he
right?
is. Yeah, that's right. He is known for that, but I think what makes him so special is he's just a nice, normal guy who's very creative, and those are hard to find. Someone you can collaborate with and talk to and hash out ideas with, without any pride, which people like, I'm the guy, I'll make all these decisions, blah blah blah. No, you just tell him an idea, and he's like, yeah, let's try it, and he's just got a good eye and a good personality, which helps.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, getting into the single you guys are currently, you've got the video out for the Alphabet of Me. I mean, that's kind of a fairly unique song for you guys. It kind of, parts of it, like I hate to use this word, but there might be even little pop elements to it. It's it's very different from your back catalog. Like, how did you guys land on that for the single to promote? I mean, obviously you guys started with Nightingale, but now you've got the Alphabet of Me. Like, how did you land on that one?
Yeah, I remember the conversation pretty well. We're all pretty big fans of that kind of music. Not electronic music, so to speak, but experimental music, and again, like indie rock stuff, pop stuff, metal stuff. Listen to a whole bunch of different music. So, and Pete Jones, keyboardist, he's an amazing producer of he makes his own electronic music and all this. So I think he wrote that piano figure in the intro, and I think the band I heard when I first heard the demo, I was like, oh, it kind of reminds me of everything. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that band.
Yeah.
Yeah, not what I would call a pop band, so to speak. I mean, I guess people could say that. I don't know. But to me, I think of that. When I think of that band, I think that's a progressive band. I know that prog and progressive are different words for some reason, but like I think that's a sound I haven't heard before, which I think is kind of what progressive means.
Mm-hmm.
So I think just the idea that we haven't really written a song like that before. We like that kind of music, and plus it's hard to choose a song from Fauna that we think, oh, this represents the sound of the album. I mean, there's not really one song you can do that with.
Mm-hmm.
I guess as a result of just the theme that we ended up going with, which every song having its own personality. It was impossible to choose one that's represented the album well. So I think that one's got a catchy chorus.
Yep.
It's different. I don't know. I wouldn't want to put out a song that sounds like, oh, that's a Haken song. All right, what's next? Because it's like put out something that's different, sounds different to what you've done before. I think it's a good idea sometimes.
Sure.
Whether people like the pop elements or not, that's fine. And whatever. But we like it, so that's what we got to do. Let's just do what we like.
Yeah, for sure.
Has there ever been a point in the past, Connor, when you guys are writing, and maybe not so much in this one since you weren't there, but somebody comes to you with an idea and you're like, okay, even for us, this is just too far out there?
Not really. I mean,
or do you just always figure out a way, we're gonna make this work no matter what?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if someone came with submitted an idea like, oh, this is we're gonna do like a dub reggae kind of thing. I mean, even in Fauna, there's moments of that almost.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like even at the it's more of Sting, less reggae, but
right.
With the because the instrumentation is always going to be the same. There's two guitar players, there's keyboard players, basses, drums, and vocals. So any style really is going to, within those parameters, is going to sound like Haken, I guess. So I don't know. It'd be tough for someone to present something that's too quirky or too out of left field, I think, which is fun.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that. I mean, as a prog band, the audience is obviously open-minded. Long songs, all kinds of crazy instrumentation.
Sure.
It's like, is there ever a concern writing that style of music? All right, are we going to push these people too far eventually? Or is it just, nah, man, we're doing exactly, is it always we're doing what we like, and if people like it, cool. If not, is there ever that concern of pushing things too far?
I mean, I guess so. I think subconsciously, and we've had conversations where it's like, what's the best career move? Well, we don't know. But I think what's most important is we prioritize good melodies and things you can sing, things that anyone can sing. Not to say they're simple, but things that get stuck in your head, that's a goal. Mm-hmm. I think, it doesn't have to be a goal for everybody, but for us, that's write a melody you can sing and people at a live show or, chant it back at you. So I think if you have that little nugget there, you can pretty much write anything musically around it, and no one's going to be like, whoa, that is too freaky, we cannot hear, I don't think it's going to happen, it's just a nice melody and there's some weird chords. I think most folks can handle that.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So we got two more questions for you and we'll let you go. Thank you for your time.
Sure.
So this album marks the return of the original keyboardist, Peter Jones.
Yeah.
And obviously he was on the two EPs before the first record. So, he's back. how did that influence the writing of the new record? How does that influence like the energy to have somebody that was there from the beginning, they're back? Like talk a little bit about what that brings, to the band in terms of a writing situation and all that.
Yeah, well, I think it brings. Obviously, it goes without saying, it's pretty fresh brain to kind of, he's got all these. Such a creative guy, and he's so easy to talk to and be around. So naturally, he just kind of he fit in so smoothly. I had met him before, but didn't know him too well. But I know him pretty well now. We just slept next to each other on a bus for 9 months. But
right.
He came in with ideas. He's got his own music anyway, so he's overflowing with ideas, and the other guys have always been overflowing with the ideas, which is great. So he just I don't know. He's got the electronic element. He grew up on progressive music as well. He's a big Dream Theater fan, Symphony X fan. Loads of different stuff. So it was just nice having a new guy who is like-minded and just, I don't know, he just has so many ideas. And Alphabet of Me, I think, was originally his thing. Nightingale, that piano intro, the whole thing. And he's so musical too. He's not his keyboard sensibilities. He's very I guess musical is the right word. I can't think of a better one than that. It just fits so well. Everything glues together. There's never a moment where he's, over the top standing out. I think it just made the entire process very easy. Writing a new album, very easy. And very fun, obviously, because he's a funny guy, good dude. Sounds like I have a big crush on Pete, which I do. But
Wait, so like you said, you spent 9 months in a bus with him, sleeping next to him. So
yeah, well, that's a good thing. Is I just spent months sleeping next to him on a bus, and I'm still like, oh, Pete's the best. That's a sign of a good friend, I would say, and a great musician. Yeah,
for sure. Well, I was going to ask you another one, but you answered my other question in your response. So
oh no,
so there we go, man. So before we let you go, where can people find Haken online? How can they discover you guys? And one more time, plug the tour.
Sure. So I think we have an Instagram. It's hakenmusic.com is our website, I think. I don't know. There's a YouTube. Just type Haken into Google. That's what everyone does. Or some people do, maybe. We're playing in North America, starting in Nashville, and I think Cleveland's like the second date.
2 weeks from tonight, you're in our hometown here.
House of Blues, I think, is where we are, and going up into Canada and down the East Coast, down the South, up the West Coast, the whole thing. So come along if you want. I think the set list is pretty good. I don't think you'll be too disappointed if you like long songs. That's
awesome. Our buddy Robert Reams, he says, thanks for joining the pod. Come tour in the U.S. more.
I don't know how we can tour the U.S. more than we are in a few weeks. So.
These people, man, they're never happy. It's like the Dream Theater song, "Never Enough."
Yeah, tour more tour.
Exactly. Well, Connor, thank you so much for jumping on the show, man. You are always welcome. The new record is great, guys. If you haven't checked it out, it's called Fauna. It's fucking awesome. So go check it out. If you've not heard Haken before, you are going to love it. Obviously, you're tuned into a Dream Theater show, so you're going to love prog stuff. You're going to love Fauna, so check that out. And Connor, most of all, safe travels out there, man. Have a great tour, bud.
Thank you. Thanks so much, fellas.
Anytime. We'll talk to you soon, bro.
Okay.
Thanks, man.
See ya. See ya. Oh, look at that. And just like that.
From Haken to Aiken, your show just downgraded like Connor's mic. Jesus.
There we go. Dude, that was a great interview, man. Like, it was. And this is my technological inability. I went to remove him, and yours slid over, and I just added you in. I didn't even get to do a cool intro. That was terrible podcasting right there.
I'm not a cool guy, so there's no need for a cool intro. It's just me.
Well,
hi, folks.
So, anyways, guys, real quick to close that one up. That was Connor Green from Haken. Brian, that was a great interview, man. It's like he told us before he got on, Chris. He was like, "Yeah, I'm the bass player. They don't let me do any interviews." I'm like, I thought that interview was great.
Yeah, they should have him doing more. If he's a talker, they should definitely have him doing more.
Well, and he was direct and he was honest. We asked him the one question. He's like, I don't really know. Like, that's awesome. It's like, that's honest. He's not trying to bullshit. And
Right.
Oh my God, Brian, fuck you. All right, Brian just got dumped from the show. For all you guys listening on audio, his background is the Lulu record. I will not abide.
Come on,
I
it's
will
good.
not abide. No, that's not. But
I
so
am the table.
I thought that's what we're
table.
talking about tonight, the Lulu one.
oh God.
Yeah, no,
Well-
that was cool having Connor on. It's got to be such a weird thing when everyone else is in Europe and you're over here, and like what does he do the rest of the time when they're not touring and stuff? Does he play in other bands or stuff? I wish maybe we could have probed to find out a little bit more about that next time.
Yeah.
Next time you have him on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, it was a great interview. It was fun, and I love how direct he was, and the record's great. It was cool. So, Chris, thank you for getting that set up for us. We appreciate it.
I'm glad I could leave you all that lead time for it. What, 12 hours?
That's okay. We listen to that stuff, so it's wasn't too much of a stretch.
It was funny though. It was literally, I told you about this, a month ago, I guess it was. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm working on this. I think I can make it happen. And then you hit me up, last week, I guess. And we're like,
No, it's
Hey,
Monday
is this-
morning this week.
but you were like, is this going to happen or not? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I haven't heard back from management. That sounds like a no. And,
No,
it was one of
that's
those
not what you said. It was
Well,
no.
management. Yeah.
It was
Well,
no. And
At first it was no, but then it turned into, this management team is talking to that management team is talking to this management team. And then out of the blue, they were like, okay, Connor will be on tomorrow. And I was like, they were like, send me the link. I was like, okay, no problem. We'll make that go.
like, oh shit.
Yeah, whatever. He was good.
That was a damn good interview, man. He was awesome. So, all right. So we have you on for a specific reason. You are the only other person besides me that I've ever really dug into Metallica history with that knows all the
Okay.
shit that I do. We've done an episode of the Classic Metal Show where
Yes.
you and I did Metallica trivia to see who knew more, and we basically tied.
Yes.
You are a Metallica fan back to Ride the Lightning, if I remember correctly. It was 1984.
Correct.
You saw him in like some showcase or something in a
Yeah,
ballroom.
At the CMJ, the
Yep.
radio convention, I saw him in. They had all kinds of bands that were playing at the CMJ that at the time were not famous, and they were like Yellow. Remember that? Oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
And Elliot Easton from the Cars had some solo record that he was trying to work, and these unknown Japanese guys known as Loudness were at this thing, and they played. And then there was Metallica, and I went into the ballroom. It's like 11, 12 o'clock at night. It was like way late. They were playing on and on. And I went into this ballroom, and there was like me and two other people, and Metallica just came on and destroyed. And it was just like, wow, now I'm into this band. And so fast forward to the last day. On the last day, they had all the bands kind of lined up to hand out their tchotchkes and whatever that they were throwing out. And when I got to Metallica's booth, I said to James and Lars, I was like, oh, you guys fucking killed it, man. You guys were awesome. You guys were great. And Hetfield looks at me and he goes, oh, you saw that, huh? Like he didn't even know I was there. He had no idea there was anybody in front of him. And truthfully, there was probably me and two people in front of him. There really was no
You were
one
the guy
there.
Right.
But yeah, they pulled a copy of Ride the Lightning down, handed it to me, and Lars wrote all the way across the cover, "Buy our shit, please." And
Nice.
obviously I did, and a couple other people have along the way. So
Now the obvious question is, where is that album now?
it's here. It's here in the hell of my office.
How have I never seen that?
Dude,
I've been over there, like, God, we've been friends for decades, and I have never seen that. How is that
Next
possible?
time you're over here, I'll show it to you because I believe it's just right over there on the other desk. But
Oh my
I haven't pulled it out in forever. You know me, Mr. Collector. I don't keep anything, and I certainly don't keep anything well kept. It's
Then
just thrown in a pile of shit with everything else.
Then there's me. I got all excited because I came home to my copy of the Lost Not Forgotten Archives, the making of Falling into Infinity vinyl, and I'm like, oh, I got to get more frames so I can complete my Falling into Infinity wall. And you're like, just chuck that 1984 original signed copy of Ride the Lightning on a dusty, shitty desk.
Dude, I even like my I have that Pantera autograph picture signed by all four guys. It's sitting on the desk over there. It's not even hanging up. It's just instead I have t-shirts nailed to the walls.
Yes.
Literally. I literally have t-shirts of Metallica and Pantera and Nine Inch Nails nailed to the walls. But the shit that's actually cool, it's like, it's just thrown in a pile over there. Whatever. I need to I need to put the Pantera stuff up though, because that is cool.
Yeah, you do.
So,
all right. Well, speaking of Metallica, that is the reason you are here. That is the reason why Brian and I are here. Man, let's get into it. Like our deep dives usually go track by track, so we're going to try and get to that, but I have a feeling that we might not get to that. This is going to be a spirited discussion.
Might not be as much as you think, but...
Well, I mean, let's get right to it. I mean,
right.
They put out the new record last week, and right off the bat, first of all, I can't believe they kept this goddamn thing a secret the way they did, because when Lux Eterna dropped, you're like, wait, what the hell? Like, I mean, they must really have more money than God, because they figured out a way to not have anything leak, not a note, not even a hey, Metallica's in the studio.
Yeah, not a hint.
Yeah,
nothing.
And so the record comes out last week, and man, I mean, before we really get into it, like as we go, I'll get my Lars Ulrich hate out of the way in a minute, but I mean, initial reaction, I gotta say, man, this is a kick-ass record, and to me, this is by far the best thing they've done since the Black Album. And I've liked, I liked Death Magnetic. I know Brian hates that record, but I really liked Hardwired. But this record is head and shoulders above those two. I mean, where are you at, Brian?
I totally agree. It's definitely the best since then. I think I'm pleasantly surprised. It would be easy for me to hate a lot of this, but I really did go track by track, and I really did kind of listen to it over and over multiple times. And what I came up with is I really appreciate the effort. I think it's like 70% there. It's pretty good, but most of the songs, there's just usually one or two things where I'm like, man, we just need a little bit more melody here. We need a little bit more twist of a riff there. Trim 2 minutes here, And that sounds nitpicky, I know, but I'm used to Metallica making the perfect right choice. On Ride the Lightning through the Black Album, like, okay, here's the perfect riff, here's the perfect drum fill, we're not going to go too long, here's the cool strings on Nothing Else Matters, like, you know what I mean? It's just like you're used to those kind of things, and, I just feel like there's still a little something missing, but this is the best by far, so I'm pleasantly surprised.
Our buddy Jackal, Jim Bartek is tuning in. He says, Death Magnetic rules. So you have an opponent on that one, Brian. And Cale McLeish says, this smokes Hardwired easily. Yeah, I
agree.
Yeah. Chris, where are you at with this one?
I'm in the same exact boat. I've been saying the whole time, best since the Black Album. Is it perfect? No. Would it be better if some of these songs had, I don't know, a hook or a chorus that's just somewhat memorable? Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, I'm digging it. I like it. Like with Hardwired, my problem with Hardwired was pretty much the second half of the record. Like the first half kills. The first half of that record kills. And then you go for a really long, dead spell until Spit Out the Bone. And, all those songs, all those songs in the middle, Man Unkind or,
I Am Savage.
I Am Savage, Murder One. Those songs blow.
Yeah.
So, I'm just not a fan of those at all.
Yep.
But the first half of Hardwired, I mean, honestly, Now That We're Dead is probably my favorite Metallica song past the heyday. I love that tune. And, I'm not as hard of a judge on Metallica. I probably should be worse because I come off like a phony, but, I'm a Metallica fan. I'm always going to be a Metallica fan. I like the core sound of what they do. And with this, I like the kind of COC styled fuzzy riff thing. And I like the fact that somebody kicked Kirk Hammett in the fucking right leg and took his foot off the wah pedal for a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit more. There's a little less of that than there has been, which is good. So I like it. I like it overall. I think it's great.
Well, you mentioned Kirk Hammett, and one of my overall notes for the record is like somebody did kick him. They kicked him in the ass and kicked him right back to 1983 because most of these solos sound like they're straight off of fucking Kill 'Em All.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes way back stylistically in a couple parts, and his soloing especially. I mean, it is really like Metal Militia, Whiplash, like old school Kirk Hammett. I just joined the band. Holy shit, I'm recording a record with a signed band kind of energy. Like it's, you know, I mean, people are giving him crap for the Lux Eterna solo, and I don't understand why.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I mean, it rips, you know?
Well, we're 2 weeks removed from an album that I absolutely praised for the guitar harmonies, and that is what Metallica was missing big time. And there are just enough of those parts. I wish there was more, but at least there's some. I feel like that was just totally missing in the last couple albums. You know, there's parts on here where even if we do get a wah solo, before or after, we are getting some really cool little fills with guitar harmony things. And, like, that's the kind of crap that they need in those songs, you know, to really beef them up and to make them interesting.
And, you know, overall, one of the things that I had written down is and again, nothing's complete with any Metallica record, but more than Hardwired or Death Magnetic, which are pretty much the only two I'm going to compare this to, you know, more than either of those two, there's maybe one song that feels like it was stitched together. You know, where those other records, you could definitely tell we got this riff. Let's figure out how to use it. Let's find a song to stick it into. These songs feel like they're just songs that these guys wrote. And, you know, it feels way more organic than Metallica has in a while. And, you know, maybe even since like Load Reload, since that era. And I know people hate those records, but, you know, they were organically written back then. That's all. And, you know. So,
well, a couple comments, and one of them goes right there. Our good buddy Bob Hurd, good to see you, brother. He says, you put any other band name on the record Load, and it would be incredible. Tough to follow up the Black Album. Great hard rock bluesy record. I am going to disagree. I think that the Load and Reload songs are weak. If I didn't know the band, I'd be like, whatever. Kind of boring for me, I think.
There's one killer record out of those two.
You and I have had that discussion, and to be fair, we went track by track, and you did have a hard time even putting together one full record.
I think we came up with 10.
Yeah, it was 10.
Yeah,
so
we came up with 10 that I was like sold on. But you got to admit, "Bleeding Me" is a great fucking song.
It's okay. You're a bigger fan than I am, so
it's a great fucking song. You're crazy.
Marcelo Ferreira says Load and Reload rock. I'm again gonna have to disagree. Our good buddy, Discuss Metal Joseph Wren, good to see you, brother. He says, I will not rank this record within their discography yet. I will say that it is a greatest hits of everything they've ever done. That includes old school, the 90s, even Saint Anger, No Hate.
That's a good call there.
Yeah, that's pretty hard to dispute. I've got some of that in my notes. I mean,
I'll say this about this album. I have tickets to the Detroit shows. The Detroit Pantera and honestly, my thought was I had tickets to one show with empty seats for a second show because I was not planning on staying for the second night. And now that I've heard the album, I'm 100% staying for the second night. I'll sit in a hotel and, you know, in a bunker somewhere to protect myself from Detroit in that middle day. But you know, I'm going to go both nights now. Just because I want to hear these songs.
How much of this are they going to play, you think? Or if they said, or
you know,
both nights are different, so they're gonna. I bet you they pull out at least 8, like 4 per night. I think there's enough. There's enough to pull 4 songs per night. I think that are strong enough.
And they always do that anyway. They're them and Iron Maiden are the two heritage bands that have absolutely no fear of playing their new catalog.
Unfortunately, Iron Maiden.
I'm just hoping what doesn't happen with those two shows is that the first night, since it's the Pantera night, is like all the old school stuff, and then the second night will suck because it'll just be, you know, Death Magnetic and Load and Reload, and you know, the Memory Remains, and you know, I'm hopeful that because it is the younger crowd with the Ice Nine Kills and with the
James Country song.
Yeah, exactly. Outlaw Torn.
Look, man, you claim to be a fan of those records. You might have to eat shit on that.
I ain't gonna lie. I'll be right there singing along. I'll be like, yeah, the Fixer. Woo!
Sweet Amber. Yeah.
I mean, that's a sign of true greatness, though, that they can be that polarizing. I mean, I love that we can get people that come on and love Load and Reload, because that means they love Metallica.
Yeah.
So, like, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean?
Nothing at all.
I just know that because of Lars, when I saw the tour announcement, I was like, yeah, I'll go see Mammoth open for Pantera.
Well, dude, remember when I bought my tickets? That's exactly what I said. When I bought my tickets, I said I was gonna go see Wolfie, I was gonna see Pantera, and I could probably make it home by midnight. From Detroit, I was literally looking at it as I can go and then make it home by midnight. And then I watched a couple of recent Metallica shows, and I was like, it's such a big giant production.
Yeah.
They're not as good as they used to be. I mean, it's not going to be the shows that I saw in the 80s. It's definitely not going to be that.
No.
But it's still a big giant show with a band that still does it. You know, it's not like I'm going to see Rat or Dokken or bands like that just are terrible. You know, I mean, it's going to be a solid show with a giant stage, and fuck it, I'm going.
Well, I mean, let's start there. Let's get into the record. Right. I'm going to get this out of the way.
All right.
You said they're not what they were. I could tolerate them if Lars Ulrich would play the fucking songs the right way. Okay, I am well on record on this show and on any other show on the whatever. I get in fights about Lars Ulrich all the time. His drumming keeps getting lazier and lazier. Yeah. And on this record, this would be, and I'm going to be blasphemous here. If you add, like you said, Chris, a few more big choruses, and if Lars would throw in some interesting drumming like he did on the first 5 records, I think this would stand up against the first 5 records. Yeah. It would be close. But he plays things so goddamn boring, and it's just infuriating because, you know, I mean, you sent me the link to this thing. He's on Howard Stern. Let me explain my double bass technique. And I texted back, what is he? I said, what is he sitting there not playing double bass? Yeah. Is that what his technique is? Like, and you know,
silence.
Yeah, it's like the article, you know, that it was attached to says, you know, Ulrich told Consequence that he prides himself on the ability to play what the song calls for, adding that a talented drummer will play what's best for the song and perform simply, even though they're capable of doing more when is needed. Yeah. He said it's often easier to play fast than it is to play slow. There's more. Shut the fuck up, okay?
Shut up.
Like a 4-year-old kid can play AC/DC. A 4-year-old kid cannot play goddamn Battery, okay? Yeah. The amount of excuses this guy makes for putting no effort into this shit is ridiculous.
I know he's turned Dyer's Eve into a 4/4 timing. A single bass 4/4 time for Dyer's Eve. It's
a march.
It's tough, and believe me that the last record and this one especially, you listen to him, you're like, all right, he's Phil Rudd now, and it's like, okay,
he has been since '92.
Well, I know that, but at least he's writing songs that accommodate that. At least he's not writing songs and having a drum machine play it only to go and do these songs live and have them absolutely wrecked like the old songs are.
Okay, but here's the thing. Like, he can do more. He can't. He's saying he can.
But he can't.
Then he needs to shut the fuck up.
Did you see the clip on Kimmel where Jimmy Kimmel asked the 4 guys if they were if their kids were in bands, and they all said yeah. And he asked Hetfield, he goes, do you like that? And Hetfield goes, no, because my kid's a drummer. And he was sitting right next to Lars. He was sitting right next to Lars and looked him in the eye and said that. Lars stinks. We know that.
It was terrible. I mean, look at this. Jackal. He says he's 60 years old, for Christ's sakes. Yeah, you know who else is 60 years old? Charlie Benante. Okay, yeah, do you hear Charlie Benante like not doing all the old Anthrax stuff? No, Cale McLeish. Nico McBrain is 70. Yeah, dude. Just
Peter Criss is like 75, and he sounds absolutely amazing.
Nice. I just, it's lazy, and he brings up Charlie Watts, and he brings up Phil
Charlie
Rudd. It's
Watts.
The Metallica's playing
Yeah.
a shuffle. They're going to play a shuffle.
exactly.
Charlie Watts, who shows up with one tom and a cymbal.
Yeah. Well, and
I guess
that's
he doesn't
fine.
show up anywhere now, but
Well, and Lars contradicts himself, because when he says, a good drummer plays to the song, those guys do. They play to the song. But you're in a thrash metal band.
Yeah.
You don't play fucking Back in Black beats over the Four fucking Horsemen, dude. You just don't.
See, you're looking at it the wrong way, John. He's right. Good drummers do play to the song.
Right.
He does not.
Oh my
Well,
god.
at least you haven't been still getting upset about this, John. That's the main.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, it really burns my ass, but
It's not
Yeah, at
going to
least you're
change,
not
so you
bugged.
might as well
Yeah.
chill on it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I got my that's only 1/10 of my Lars hate, but we'll move on. So, I will say, like, initial notes, and then we'll song for song this. But would you guys agree? I think this leans so heavily on their new wave of British heavy metal roots, like more than any record they've done in God knows how long. It's like you can hear the Diamond Head, and you can hear the Motorhead
Some
and the
of it.
Black Sabbath. Like I think there's a ton of it in there. In
Some
the
of it, yeah.
the styling of the riffs and everything, and
I think like your guy that, and I forget who it was that you popped up earlier, said, I think some of it definitely leans to that. And I think some of it definitely leans into the 90s rock era. I think it kind of is almost like a retrospective of new songs of the different eras of Metallica.
Yep.
There it is.
Yep.
I think he's right about that it does lean into, I don't know that I hear the Saint Anger, but maybe it's because this sounds produced. So
Yeah.
Right. And this is my last thing about Lars. Speaking of production, they finally put him on a grid. Like the previous two records, and maybe before that, but I don't even want to mention Saint Anger. But they, the Pro Tools way to do is a drummer, you play to a click, and then they move the pieces around so it's perfect timing on a grid. And they finally did that with him on this record. They didn't do it on Hardwired. They didn't do it on Death Magnetic. And it's like, if they got to put this asshole on a grid when he's playing shit this simple, that's not a good sign. And it's, Greg Feidelman probably wanted to say, let's make it as tight as possible, especially because Hetfield is, can we just agree that Hetfield is on motherfucking fire on this record? But,
sounds different. I will say that he sounds different. I like it.
dude, his riffs are like all, it's
Oh,
a
you mean
riff.
guitars? I thought you meant vocals.
Well, I mean, I think the vocals are more old school too. There's more grit in this than there's been in the last several records.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I mean, to keep the precision with Hetfield, they had to put Lars on a grid, which I think,
Fine.
yeah, it's fine with me. It sounds great. It's tight as shit.
Fine,
So-
do that, and I hope they Motley Crue the drums and on the tour. That'd be fine with me.
He's going to be playing the guy back by the soundboard. It's like, all right, wait, let's move the snare back like a half beat.
Yeah, it's all good.
It's going to be like this big delay and stuff. It's going to be all
There just won't be a spotlight on the drums. It'll be all dark. You'll just see arms moving around.
Backwards hat with a toothpick flying out of his mouth here
That's
and there.
right.
his feet up in the air, no socks on, all that shit.
Oh my god! All right, so let's go here track by track real quick on
All
these. So the opening track is the title track, 72 Seasons. To me, never bad to start out with a thrash tune. The riffs are absolutely killer, I think. Hetfield, his vocals, like, it sounds like old school James. Like I was trying to picture like James from '91, like recording the Black Album, singing this, and I could actually picture it reasonably. So, the sludgy breakdown going into the chorus, go like, that's cool, and and going into the solo, they've got a really cool key change, and right off the bat, like I said before, the solo is very Kill 'Em All, and that's a theme that goes throughout. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on the title track?
Good start. I thought there was a very Blackened Justice feel on this one. The riff reminded me of it. The only thing I didn't like on this, the bridge felt a little bit forced, which I think is the part you're just saying how much you liked. So,
Well, it's not the bridge. I just like the key change part.
okay, yeah, but
Yeah.
because after that bridge, there's the thing where this is what we're talking about with Lars. That's the riding the hi hat.
Oh,
yeah. It's like, and they do that again on another song. And I'm like, this. Dude, there's nothing cool about this for like 30 seconds. That you go, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but we had a wah solo come in, but then after that it was a melodic solo out of that, and then the guitar harmonies caught my ear right away because I'm like, here's a wah solo crap, and you're ready to turn it off, But I mean, You know, 7.5 minutes. You know, I trim this to 6.
3.
Well, maybe not 3, but you know, trim it to 5.5, 6. I think it's way more memorable, and I think it stands out more. And that's going to be the problem. Is as much as I say that this is a step in the right direction, and I like it. I don't know if I'm going to go back and listen to it because of there's these type of things like this that sort of annoy me. You know.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Well,
What about
it's
you,
funny
Chris?
It's funny to me that you guys go so far back with this thing. I hear it, and all I hear is that it's a straight knockoff of "That Was Just Your Life." It sounds exactly like that song. You know, it's like, all right, well, that worked once. Let's do it again. You know, and you know, I mean, yeah, the guitars are a little, you know, little pushed old school, but I mean, the song itself is almost structured exactly like "That Was Just Your Life." And that's a recurring theme on this thing. They do that a few times on a few of these songs.
Yeah, there's a few recycled ones here.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, I didn't notice that because I think that the previous 2 records, there wasn't a ton that was that memorable that I was like, oh, that sounds like that. Like I hear, you know, I mean, later in the record, we'll get to it. I hear Blitzkrieg on a song, you know, like, I mean, I go all the way back, you know, again, the Kill 'Em All reference and some Ride, but the modern stuff, the last couple of records, like it's not, I don't hear those things because there wasn't a ton of stuff that was that memorable that I was like, I could, you know, call back to it.
Sure.
So,
I agree.
but all right. So moving on to track 2, we have Shadows Follow, excuse me. I was thinking about, anyway, we're getting into metal. So I love the intro riff. That is a banging ass riff.
Mm-hmm.
The harmonized solo is kind of like Holier Than Thou. Like I heard that. I was like, wait a minute, where have I heard that? And it's like, and I thought back, I'm like, yeah, that's Holier Than Thou. So that's kind of a rip-off there if we're going to talk rip-offs. But the riff that precedes it is really heavy, and it's something they do in a few places on this record. Like, you know, Metallica is very much a power chord band for the majority of their stuff, but they do some bar chords that are, you know, they're really heavy, and they're more for like sludgy bands and, you know, a lot more like doom metal bands and stuff to make it really dark. And this is the first time you hear that, and it sounds cool because you don't hear that on a Metallica record. So You've got the classic Hetfield riffs and the old school sound, but then you've got this like there's these big like bar chords like that, which is awesome. And I have to ask, was I the only one when that riff comes up in the bridge that heard na 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 Batman?
It's only you.
Man, Steph and I were listening to that in the car. And
did you
as
go
soon
like
as
zonk pop whoop? Did you do it?
pow zap?
Yeah.
No.
That's just because Steph was talking back.
Yeah, right. It's the last time she'll say it sounds
Nice.
like Batman.
Nice. But yeah, as soon as that riff hit, I went, what is that? They did it again. I looked at her and I went, Batman. And she goes, I was thinking the same thing. It really sounds like the Batman. Like, so that was kind of like an immediate thing. But I think this is a great song. I love this one. Chris, you mentioned about Hardwired being pretty much front loaded.
Yeah.
And I think this one is kind of like that.
Oh yeah.
But I think like the filler stuff, quote unquote filler stuff at the end. I mean, there's 3 songs I could be like, take it or leave it. But this record starts out like the last one. It doesn't have the filler stuff, but it starts out banging like the last one, but even stronger, I think, than Hardwired. So, what do you think about Shadows Follow?
To me, it's the best song on the record. It's by far
Really?
my favorite. It's by far my favorite song.
Okay.
I love the COC styled guitar riff that powers the song. I really like that odd timing thing that they're doing in the bridge, I guess, or in the lyrical build-up or whatever you call that.
Pre-chorus, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. What is that, like a 3/4 that then blends right into a 4/4? I love that. And I don't usually like that kind of stuff. I usually call that headache music, but I like it in this case. I like the way that they did it. And this is the first of many, many tunes where you hear Hetfield with that strained vocal, like he's just really pouring it on. And it's like, I like that sound. It's been so long that we've been listening to Hetfield. It's been 30 years, let's be honest, that we've been listening to Hetfield doing a caricature of James Hetfield. you know, with the yeah, wow, wow, you know,
You betcha.
You got the yeah, you know, all that,
Baby.
all that stuff that he does, and he just didn't do that on this record, and I love that. I love that he's just powering through, and there's parts where his voice just seems like it, you know, he might have lost his voice a little bit, and he doesn't care. He just goes higher than he can go, and he doesn't care. And big ups for that, because a band like Metallica could easily spend the money to edit that out, and they didn't. So I again, favorite song on the record.
Brian, what are your thoughts on Shadows Follow?
So I've got a real shortest straw vibe on the riff on this one, and that's not a bad thing. So to Chris's point, I love the pre-chorus on this song. I hate the actual chorus. I don't like those accents, and that's one of my pet peeves on this album is we get too many of those dun dun dun, like just those. You know, I just think after a while it just sort of takes away from this stuff. You know, and then we got another wah solo, but there is a very cool. The first solo is very cool. It's a riff based. You know, it goes to another quick guitar harmony, which I like. You know, I wrote down the times of every one of the songs, so 6 minutes 20 seconds. Again, you know, make it 5.5. I don't know. But again, it's like, you know, there's enough things in here I like to where I'm just not like, oh my God, you know, I can't just sit here and honestly rip it to shreds, you know.
Right.
So I do appreciate that there's things on here that I think that they're doing that are cool.
All right. Yeah, I'm surprised that, you know, you're not into the chorus. I thought the chorus was pretty cool on this one, so
yeah.
I'm a fan. I mean, I was listening to the record. I'm like, all right, this is two like straight fucking bangers right off the bat. Like, this is good.
Yeah.
So moving on to track 3, which I think might be my favorite song on the record.
Okay.
Screaming Suicide, the second single that they released. My first note is finally some double bass to make things a little interesting. Like,
yeah, I wonder who played them.
Yeah, it's like it's a triple, like it's cool. It's something different, and then my next note in all caps: we have a Tom fill. Like, I mean, he literally does a tom fill less than 10 times on this record in 70. It's disgusting. It's like he could literally have the left side of the drum kit, the hi-hat, the snare, one crash, and the kick, and that's all he needs, except for the floor tom to do, Brian, your favorite boom, 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 like those.
Yep.
Other than that, he doesn't need it. It's so. That being said, this is my favorite riff on the album. You know, I love that riff. This song grabbed me the second that I heard it when they dropped the video for it, and you know, when they put that out like a month ago or something. I was like, this song kicks ass, man. Mm-hmm. And I really like the vocal rhythm after the bridge. It's a little bit like, I can't say it's off time, but it does change up from being like straight on the beat, and it's a little off the beat, and I just think it adds to the drive of the song. So this one, I've gone back to this song so many times. So I mean, Akin, your favorite is Shadows Follow. Mine, I think, is Screaming Suicide. I mean, it's short, it's to the point. Like, it's very much, you know, again, back to the Kill 'Em All thing. It's short to the point. You get ass kicking in a nice little compact package, and I really love that. It's, you know, to me, one of the best things they've written since Saint Anger. Well, since the Black Album, because, you know, I don't like any of the other crap either. But, you know, but Brian, what do you think about Screaming Suicide?
So you mentioned going back to the new wave. This riff is Bread Fan. It's just this white twist on it, you know. Which, it's fine. That's what they do. I mean, they don't even apologize for it anymore. This is another one where, I don't know, something about the chorus I don't like, but I really love the second verse. I love his vocals on this. And this is one that has the spoken word thing, and that changes it up. You know, like those are the kind of just little things that keep it from kind of just being these sort of dark, sludgy, you know, accent heavy, you know, barely changing the riff up. And then there's a really cool vocal outro at the end. So I kind of like the last 2 minutes of this song, I think, are dynamite, like some of the best parts in the whole album.
Sure. So 3.5 minute song, you like the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, basically.
Nice.
I like 60% of this song.
Right.
This is the one I didn't have the time down. Is this the other short one?
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
Lux Eterna. Yeah, Lux Eterna and Screaming Suicide are the short ones.
Sure.
Okay.
So, Chris, Screaming Suicide.
I don't have a whole lot written about it. I you know, this is going to sound ridiculous, but considering it's a song about suicide, I think it's just a fun rocker. It's absolutely fun to me. You know, quick to the point. Sounds like Metallica. Good enough.
Right.
I didn't dig into it any further than that, other than, yeah, I like it. Good enough. Cool. Won't turn it off if it comes on in my car. That's all I need to know.
All right. Short, succinct, and to the point, just like the song itself.
That's right.
So
I'm not known for talking too much or anything, am I?
God, if Brian wasn't on here, this would be a 6-hour episode. Like we haven't done that before.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's just on the phone.
I know. All right, so moving on to track 4, we have "Sleepwalk My Life Away." I think this is a theme going through the record. I think we can officially describe this record as kind of mid-tempo for Metallica, I would think. That's kind of how it strikes me. So, another mid-tempo rocker. Again, another key change for the chorus. They have a couple key changes in this record, which I really like. That kind of, changes things up nicely. Again, especially Lars is not adding anything with the drums to kind of separate parts. So, the instrumentation has to kind of carry that burden. I think it does that on this one. It's a good song. It's just kind of there for me. Marcelo Ferreira, he says, "Sleepwalk is my favorite and could easily be on load, I think." I mean, Marcelo, maybe that's why to me it's just kind of there. I mean, I don't know about the load thing because I really don't like that record.
I wrote the exact same thing. I wrote definitely cut from the load reload style of rock songs.
Well, if it is, then it's a good version because those songs were not good. And this sounds like a Metallica song to me. Load and Reload did not sound like Metallica songs.
Am I the only one that does not notice this is Inner Sandman? Can you not hear that? This is Inner Sandman. It seriously is. Listen to the way the chord turns around, and even the title, Sleepwalk, is in there. If you really sit down and focus on this song, is Inner Sandman twisted around just a tad, like just a little bit of a twist to it.
Yeah.
It's plain as day to me. And that's what makes it hard for me to kind of rate this song because I'm like, man, I know exactly what this is going to do right now, and I can feel how this is changing. It's real tough for me to rate this one. I'm not saying I hate it, but I'm just saying to me it's so obvious what it is.
I did not get that.
I didn't either, but I just wrote it down to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, well, listen to it and let me know. I just want to make sure I'm not – I mean, I know I'm insane, but I want to see if anyone else agrees with me on this.
Yeah, No, I did not get that. And Sleepwalk, that one I really didn't get because I'm like, it's just a word. But yeah, I mean, if we're gonna compare this to Enter Sandman, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah.
Just the production of it too, which is weird because and not to jump the next song, but I feel like the next one also sounds like something off the Black Album too.
All right.
I do as well. Probably the same song.
All right.
Well, one of my best buddies, Circle J, Jason Cluse, good to see you, man. He says, yeah, heard that too right off the bat. He's a monstrous Metallica fan.
Okay, good.
So so I guess he heard it too. I did not. So.
And again, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just like pointing it out when I.
But I mean,
it could be worse. It could be sounds like The Memory Remains or something like that. You're like, what the hell?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm not trying to be negative by comparing it to the biggest hit the band ever had.
Right,
the one that's the reason they're all like 100 millionaires.
That's
exactly.
That's
I heard that. It sounds like 2x4. Then you got a problem.
Hey, I like 2x4. I've defended that song on here before.
Stop it.
Oh, God.
You need to be hit with a 2x4 just for liking that.
I do like that song.
That song is
awful.
awful.
My God. I'm going to fire you from the show if you say that one more time. That is awful. When
Song.
you hear Ain't My Bitch, you're like, oh, what is that?
Yeah,
then
I don't like that either.
Then you go, then you're like, okay, it's one song. Then you get you're like, oh God, it's over. It's fucking over.
I mean, I know it's not as good as anything on Death Magnetic, but
dude, Akin, we're gonna have you on. We're gonna do a deep dive into Death Magnetic. We're gonna school this asshole. So
no, that would require me to go back and listen to it again. I refuse.
Well, you're stuck. So
I'll fight the argument for Saint Anger. I'll fight that one with you guys all day long. So I'm not
Dude,
one to be.
I'll battle over Saint Anger's tolerable before I will Death Magnetic any day.
So you'd take Saint Anger over Death Magnetic?
Yes.
Yeah, even I wouldn't say that. I just say there's some good songs on it.
Right. At least there are some good songs, and there's nothing on Death Magnetic. It's so forced. It's not even funny.
Stop.
Good Lord, the IQ. on this show just dropped a collective couple hundred points with those last few comments. Oh my God. Oh Lord. All right. So moving on, we have a pretty damn good Black Sabbath song called "You Must Burn." This is one song I will say where Lars's drumming actually fits. You know, his simplistic style and minimalistic playing. Sometimes he does play to the song. This is one of them. I'm sure he didn't do it on purpose because he plays like that on every song. But
no, they wrote the song to his ability.
Yeah, Lars, give us a drum beat, and he'd play. Well, here I got this thing, and they're like, all right, here's what we got. Here's "You Must Burn." I love Hetfield's vocal on this one. I think because. Yeah, dude, it's like it's slower, so it stands out more. There's more room for it to breathe, and this is just like, you know, that gritty. I just swallowed a mouthful of gravel Hetfield that we love. You know, it's like, I mean, it's a sludgy tune. It does some cool instrumental things, even though they're in a simplistic form. And again, I hate to keep bringing it up, but there's a key change. And I like when bands do that. It's a it's a little different. It especially with Metallica because and on a record like this especially, Hetfield's always like chugging on that low E, and it's nice to break that up so you're not just hearing that same notation the whole time. So I think this is cool, man. I would guess that this is one of the more I don't want to say skipped tracks on the record, but I would think that like people kind of look at this like, yeah, okay, let's move on. Like, but I kind of dig it, I kind of like it. So this is kind of a sleeper tune for me. Where do you stand on this one, Chris?
Now I'm going to let Brian go so that I can agree with him on the song he's going to reference it to.
Well, John, for liking this as much as you do, you must burn.
Good point.
No, you know what? This is a sludgier, but way less melodic, sad but true.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh,
ding,
God.
ding.
You know what? I don't know where you guys hear that. It does not sound like Sabbath. It sounds like a Sabbath song.
No.
I wrote the exact same thing, the dull version of Sad But True.
Well, Sad But True is a big time. Well, Chris loves COC. That's a very COC Sabbath type song, in my opinion. I don't know what I have on here. I like there's the weird harmony vocal thing halfway through. It's a little cool. He does a melodic singular riff on the solo, which I like because it gets us away from the wah. I think by far this song is way too long. I got it at 7:02. This one is one of the ones for me. It just drags out just too long, and I'm like, it feels like a skipper.
Yeah. The only thing I'll add that hasn't been said is, and it's sort of been said, but not in the way I wrote it, the drumming is pretty pedestrian on this. This is by far the easiest song of the whole record to play as a drummer. It's just, that's it. There's nothing to it.
Well, but that's most of the songs, let's be honest. I mean...
Yeah, but this one's even, because it's slow, it's even worse.
Well, but here's the thing, and I completely agree with you, right? But if you listen to a song like The Thing That Should Not Be, it's not that far removed drumming-wise. Because Thing That Should Not Be, at least got... I mean, he uses toms, which Lars doesn't own any of anymore. Lars only got a half... sponsorship from all the drum companies. He got half a drum kit, and he's like, "What half don't you want?" The toms. You can take those away. But it's not that far removed from a beat like that, and at least in this context, it fits. You're not wrong that it's very simplistic, and it's like the most bass kind of beat you can do. But at least it kind of fits. Whereas there's other moments on the record where he's just slamming on the snare drum as a fill, and it's like, no, dude, like you need some some busy stuff, I was listening to some other stuff today, and I listened to Chris, I know you'll be familiar with this. I don't know, Brian, if you're familiar. A song called "Down for Life" by Testament. It's the second track on The Gathering. And it's Dave Lombardo, and the riff is just and Dave Lombardo's like, it's a simple beat, but the fills, like, that's what I'm talking about. Is like the fills are busy, but the main beat is real simplistic, and it's like Lars doesn't add any of that flavor,
right?
But on this one, I don't think there's a lot of flavor to add, because I don't hear Sad But True. I hear more Sabbath on this one.
Well, it's dull, sad but true. Sad but boring.
sad but really sad.
Yeah. It's just sad.
Sad but sorry.
Yeah,
the truth is Lars is sad. That's it.
Nice. Oh my God.
They're
All
like,
right,
Lars, if you can't play this, then you must burn.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, basically.
Instead of sleepwalking your life away through the whole album, Jesus.
right. Oh my God. Okay, so moving on, we have the first single that was released from the record, that being Lux Eterna. Brian, why don't you start off this one?
Yeah, I mean, I said right off the bat, this is Motorhead. That's okay with me. This is sort of the stuff that the newer thing that they do best, which is, sort of going back to the really old stuff. I like the drums. I don't mind the main riff. I like James' vocals on this. I think they're decent. One thing on this album is certain songs you can't really totally hear his phrasing or understand the words he says, but on this one you can really hear him clearly. It's way out in front of the mix. It kind of feels like a song that maybe took 5-10 minutes to write, but maybe they should focus on trying to get 3 or 4 of these type of songs on an album, to balance out the longer ones. I don't think that would be a horrible idea, honestly.
Sure. I'm gonna go heartstrings on this for a minute. When this came out, mine and John's mutual friend Bob Nalbandian was still alive, and he heard this song, and he couldn't have been. He knew the Metallica guys back from the partying with them in their in the lawn party days. That's how long he knew those guys. And he was like, Metallica's finally back. Metallica's finally back. And in a weird way, I'm glad that's the only tune he heard of this album because he got to leave this earth with the right image of Metallica, in his head. So I love Lux Eterna. I think it's a great tune. It's quick, fast. It's definitely, it's definitely Ace of Spades or Eat the Rich, pick a Motorhead tune. It steals from all of them, and it works. It just works for what they're doing. I love it.
Real quick note on that, because Bob was such a cool guy, man.
Yeah.
But he did love the bands that he loved, and do you think he would have liked this record overall?
I think he'd have told you he did.
well phrased.
Well phrased. So he would have lied then, you're saying, or
yeah, probably. I mean, he was always the cheerleader. So he would have let into it with, man, they're older now, and now that they're older, their lives have changed, and therefore their musical integrity has changed. He'd have been that guy. But look, again, I don't want to turn this into a Bob Nalbandian tribute show, but to me, it was just cool that somebody that was in the camp from the beginning that unfortunately passed away, the last thing they heard was Metallica truly being Metallica.
Yeah.
And that's kind of this song is probably always going to mean that to me, is knowing the backstory of my friend that passed away. That one's going to have some actual meaning to me instead of just being another song on the record. So that's
sure.
all
right. Well, I mean, for me, this is again one of those songs that's obviously influenced by the new wave of British heavy metal. This is very Diamond Head to me. I will say this: James wanted to name the record Lux Eterna. I think that's a cooler album title than 72 Seasons, personally. I mean, just a yellow and black album cover just is boring to me, and it's also the two shittiest colors to put together I can possibly think of, being a Browns fan. But yeah, I think this song, one thing about it, it's going to be amazing live. This is a banger. Like, this is going to be one that I think they can lean on for years, like to put in the set list, because this just absolutely moves. And like I said earlier, I don't get the hate for the solo on this. I just don't understand it. It sounds like if you took a Kill 'Em All solo and slapped it together with an Injustice for All solo. I mean, what's wrong with that? What's there to hate about that? And and the ending is cool. Like, you think it's over, instead of just stopping, like it goes back into the double bass part, for a second, then goes light at. Like that's cool. It's an interesting ending. I really like that. And again, like Lars doing the double bass, that brings a different element to the record. It's not just that AC/DC beat.
Sure.
And
Jason Cluse,
Circle J. Jason Cluse says Striper designed the cover. Nice. Oh, that's awesome. All right, so moving on, we've got Crown of Barbed Wire. To me, this is another example of those chords I was mentioning earlier, like bar chords, but the chord for the main riff, I love it because it's a chord that the guitar players don't play, because it's when you're playing a power chord and you go up one string by accident, it sounds kind of discordant in a way. It sounds like you can't really use it to sing over unless you're like in a really kind of super like metal band where it doesn't really matter. And yet Hetfield puts it in there, and it sounds awesome. It's kind of evil, and the riffs are kind of slinky a little bit, and it's got a cool feel. And this is the one song where I think it sounds like the shitty parts of Load or Reload if they had been done properly and well and metal. So this is where I hear Load and Reload, and the other part that I really like is the chorus where it's like barbed wire, and the guitar goes like the guitar kind of mimics that little slow rise in the melody, which I thought that was really cool. It's kind of like a call and answer thing to me. So I like this song. It's interesting. I think this is one of the most interesting songs on the record. Where do you stand on this one, Brian?
Yeah, I love what the guitars do at the beginning, and I really like James on the pre-chorus with those harmony parts on his voice. I wish the main riff and the chorus maybe was a little bit stronger, but this song comes in at 5:48, and I was sort of almost feeling like maybe it's too long, but I don't think this one's too long. So kudos on this one. I think is a decent length, and there's enough cool things going on with the guitar, and I really like James' vocals on this one. Cool.
What do you think, Chris?
You could replace where he sings barbed wired with the word confusion and stick it on hardwired. It's a total knockoff of confusion from hardwired. I love the fat riffs, but overall the song is boring to me. Absolutely a snore. And it's also the one song that I really think they Frankenstein together. Just some of the parts in my head don't fit. Some of it just sounds like they say, all right, here's a solo we can use.
I can totally see that, though. I agree.
It's the one time I just was like, yeah, this has a lot more producer than it does band on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I don't know. Yeah. I like it, man. It's got a different sound. I mean, it's chords that they've never used before. So I mean that stuck out to me immediately. So I kind of dig it for that, and it's sludgy, and it's kind of it's got a cool. Again, this sounds like something they were trying to do on Load and Reload and failed at. So I could if they'd have done stuff like this on Load and Reload, I'd probably enjoy those records a lot more. But
Jason Cluse says the song reminded me of Kiss. I don't hear any Prince at all in that in that riff or the way that's even sung. But maybe it's just me.
I'm gonna fire you off this show if you ever mention that horrific Prince song ever again.
He's the one that said it, not me.
Yeah, man, that's it. Jay, you're gonna have to clarify that one. Like how is this Kiss? That's interesting.
Can't you hear it, Chris? It's like a ripoff of Murder in High Heels.
Just give me crowned up barbed wire.
Danger you, danger me, danger us. It's all the same thing. It's crowned up barbed wire.
Oh my God, that is awesome. All right, so moving on. The next tune we have is Chasing Light, and this one is just kind of there for me. Like, I like the riffs, I like the presentation, but it's kind of there. But I will say that I do like the chorus. It's just a really driving chorus, and Hetfield's voice, like wah, wah, that scream that he does, it's very Ride the Lightning-ish. So I really like that aspect of this song. So again, it's just it's just kind of there, but I do like that chorus scream, and it so all right, it's not a skipper, but this is okay, whatever. What do you think about this one, Chris?
It is, if you took the last three, the new one and the previous two, took all the best parts, that's what this song is. It's like that style. I don't think it's the best song, but I think it's it fits with the best elements of the more modern Metallica, I guess. I love the tons of guitars all over the place.
Yep.
The drumming is simple but effective. I'm with you. Het's voice is clearly the highlight of it. His voice is just raw, and I like that. And I would be willing to bet you're almost never going to hear this song live. I just can't see that they can do it. I don't think that Lars could do this. It would have to come straight out of The Unforgiven or something. So he's well rested. Yeah, so he's well rested.
Brian, what do you got?
Yeah, they would not be unforgiven if they played this live. I think this song is absolutely atrocious. I mean, it's chasing a light. I'm going to run as fast as I can from this light. I hear nothing in this song. I don't think the riff is good at all, and it's 6 minutes and 43 seconds. Like this song here is the epitome of exactly everything what I thought about Death Magnetic and on all their low bad spots on recent albums. There's no melody to this thing. Oh, there's nothing in this song that goes, man, I really want to turn this on and play this song again. Like not one iota of anything. And that just, to me, that's the mark of just it's almost worse it's better to be a horrible song than to be almost just so blah, so
vanilla,
so forgettable. Like, to me, it's just, I don't know. It's the one song on the album where I'm just like, I just feel like, okay, here's a riff I got. We got to burn 7 more minutes to make it, an hour and 12-minute album or whatever. So let's do that. I just don't feel any inspiration in this one at all.
So are you saying that this is the thing that should not be?
Well, here's the thing. You can get away with something like the thing that should not be because you've got Leper Messiah, you've got Orion, you've got Battery surrounding all that. And so you'll trick your mind into going, hey, man, the thing that should not be is still a decent song. But something like this, when you don't have...
Brian got cut off because he just actually dissed the thing that should not be, the second greatest Metallica song of all time. So for those of you listening on the audio version, I literally dumped Brian because he is an asshole. I will bring him back. Brian, you do not ever disrespect that song. What? It was a pun, you idiot. I wasn't making fun of the song.
Oh,
what
sorry.
are you doing?
No, I actually like the song too, but it's the weakest song on Master of Puppets by far. That was my point.
Oh my God.
That's my point.
Don't even. That's a whole
Another hour and a half.
Well,
Yep.
what are you going to pick as the weakest song on Master of Puppets then?
Orion, thank you. Marcelo Ferreira.
Okay. Chris,
Marcelo Ferreira said, "Thank
control
you."
this and dump him, please.
I'm a guest. I'm a guest.
Dude, Marcelo Ferreira says, "Thank you. Well deserved." Yeah, dude. How you're gonna tell me that an instrumental is better than the thing that should not be the heaviest Metallica tune ever recorded?
Hey, I'm just saying something has to be the worst song on the album, and it's on that particular. No, you know what? Actually, I will say "Damage Incorporated" is the worst song on that album.
I would listen to that. Like but Orion's just an instrumental. Like we're not going to get into it. We're not going to get into it.
Greatest, heaviest instrumentals of all time, though.
Whatever. Look. If we want to talk about a thing that should not be, we're talking about the next song on the record, which is "If Darkness Had a Sun."
Come on.
Thumbs down. Dumb. No, it's terrible. The lyrics are dumb. It's about the fans. The unforgiven misbehaving. Shut up. And I don't like the verse. Like Lars finally does something interesting, but it's in a terrible song. Like the chugging train type of beat and the weird vocal harmony. It's just terrible. And I mean, the riff in the bridge, that actually sounds like a heavy version of a riff from Motley Crue, man, out of Piece of Your Action, like down, 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 down. Like that's what I heard, and it's just by far my least favorite song, man.
I thought it was more like merry-go-round. No,
Starry Eyes. Bob Hurd, our buddy Hurd agrees. He says Darkness is awful, 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 so boring. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this song is shit. This is the one, just like throw it on the back end of Hardwired and be gone with you. Like, bleh. I'll let you guys discuss this one because I'm done. This song is not good.
I like it. There you go. I like
Dynamite dropping, Monty.
It's simple, it's direct, and it's solid. I agree with the Hardwired comment. It definitely is like a B version of Now That We're Dead, and that's good. Good enough for me. I like the build up. I like how it builds up and blasts into the song, exactly like Now That We're Dead did.
So Bob and I kind of argued about this one a little bit. I love the beginning guitar riff. A little bit of Short of Straw feel there. I like the groove in this song. I hate the temptation. I hate that part.
Well, yeah.
With the vengeance. But
it's an old song too.
But I love the vocals and the melody choices on the verse and the chorus, believe it or not. So this is my thing about these songs where it's like I find a lot of cool parts in the song, but then there's one thing where I'm just like, oh my God, man, you're ruining it. Like that stupid temptation part.
Well, and it's not shocking that people hate this because it was written during St. Anger. I mean, this is an old song. This is not a new song. I mean, you can hear it on Some Kind of Monster. They actually play a piece of it on Some Kind of Monster.
Oh, do they?
So,
Okay.
yeah, so it's not new. It's an old song. Back then it was just called Temptation, but it was like the song that didn't make the album but was featured in Some Kind of Monster with it was Hetfield singing it right before he said, "Fuck this, I'm out of here." He jumped in his car and drove away for a year or whatever he did. But, you know,
it is funny because this song it has been getting annihilated online, and I'm like, well, actually, I actually like 3/4 of this song, except for that one part.
Right?
I'm okay with it.
See, Marcelo says, "You'll stop hating Temptation till you sing it live with the crowd, dude." I don't know, Marcelo. I don't think that's gonna sell people. If you don't, I mean, if I ever see Metallica live again, and they do that, I'll be like, well, it's time for me to take a piss and get a beer. Like,
Come on, family, do you feel the temptation?
That's, Chris, it's funny you bring that up because, like, you especially, and I completely agree with you, you've been really critical of the modern Hetfield, like, hey friends, hey family, there's kids, and like, that's not. So now this song is written about the fans, like. Yeah, it's gonna be cringe if he intros this song about you. What's he gonna say? It's just gonna be
all right, family. This is one we all need to sing together to make. We need to get the noise factor at level 20, level Metallica. You know, I can just hear it now. Bring up an 8-year-old to sing it with them. With the big dumb headphones on. Yeah, my dad brought me here. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that. Like, I don't want to hear James writing a song about the fans. I want to hear him writing about the Pharaoh's curse. Singing about that kind of stuff.
That's what you get, man.
Yeah.
It's
well, gone are the days where he sings about murdering your mom and shit. Now it's like, hey friends, let's talk about each other.
Yep.
Fantastic.
I got something to say. I played with a baby today, and it mattered a lot to me.
I told him till he had something to say. Yeah.
All right, John. How long were you sitting on that one? Be honest.
I just came up with it. I'm not gonna. I will.
You got it on a note there somewhere.
All right, Marcelo. This song is about the fans. Come on, John. Where'd you get it from? From Hetfield's mouth, Marcelo. It was in an interview, and Hetfield said that I believe it's even if you look up the Blabbermouth article where they released it, he said this song is written about the fans, and it's just cheesy. So, I mean, look it up. That's literally from Hetfield's mouth. It's straight from the horse's mouth. This song is written about Metallica fans. So it's just too direct and just dumb, and it's forced and whatever. So I wouldn't say it's too far gone, but I would say that the next song on the record is titled Too Far Gone.
Too far gone?
Too far gone? Got to get the question mark in there. That's
why
right.
is the question mark there? That's my first comment. Why is the question mark there?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Were you not sure you were going to put it on the record?
Right. This is the one I mentioned earlier. Like, to be this song, Too Far Gone, it's kind of Blitzkrieg-ish. It reminds me of that one. I love the melody in the chorus, but I think they should have lengthened it. It's a really good melody, and they kind of only hit it here and there. It's kind of there and gone pretty quickly.
Far gone.
Right. This song definitely has kind of like a second side of Ride the Lightning feel to me, which I'm okay with. I think it's cool. I think this is a throwback to that record. I like it. What do you guys think about this one?
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, hey, this to me is got a real feel of no remorse. And what I think the only time on the album we almost hit a major key right before the chorus there, or actually in the chorus. I love the guitar harmony thing towards the end. Again, like I said, whenever I hear those come in on these songs, I think it really adds a lot. And I completely disagree. I think 433, perfect length for this song.
I too wrote no remorse down with that that part is definitely stolen from it. I actually think this song, this is a hunch, I have no knowledge, but I think this probably started as something more than it became, but it got limited by Lars. I actually think this started out being a much bigger song, and then Lars came in and was like, You know? And they were like, oh, we got to change it up. The production was too far gone from his ability, you know.
Right.
You know, so but it does definitely have an old school, whether you go No Remorse or Blitzkrieg or any one of those tunes.
Right.
I mean, you're quibbling over two very good songs there to say, okay, is it one or the other?
Yep.
That's fine, but I wish this is the one time, and I don't usually give two fucks about Lars, but this is one time I was like, man, I wish somebody better was playing drums on this one, even if it's just a studio version.
Yeah.
So decent tune. Cool. I don't hate it. Don't love it. It's okay.
I think this one kind of defines the second half of this record, and back to what we talked about earlier, the second half of Hardwired up until everything except Spit Out the Bone is pretty much trash. Mm-hmm. Whereas the second half of this record, even the ones where we're like, yeah, I don't like that one, I'm not, there's not really one you're like, oh my god, ugh. Yeah. I can look at Hardwired and say, okay, that's 7 songs. If you cut out 5, you've got a Slammin' Metallica record. This one, I mean, even if you kept all of them, even Darkness Had a Sun, the one I really don't like, I mean, I think this is solid throughout. So even though this is kind of one of those second half of the records, like, okay, second half of the record songs, it's getting a little bit long, whatever, I think it's still a really solid tune.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded if they cut like 4 of these tunes and did like made it their version of the current version of Reload or Beyond Magnetic or something like that in a year. Because Lord knows, we're going to wait 8 more years before we get the final Metallica record. You're not going to get another album in a year. So, it would have been nice if they just held some of this back, given us a 50-minute album and had something for a year or two from now to tide us over. 77 minutes, not in today's world, for God's sakes.
Well, yeah, I mean, a band like, Dream Theater can get the fans expect that. They want that. It's a prog band. They got 10, 12-minute songs. Like, you expect that. But Metallica, Brian, you mentioned Iron Maiden earlier. I mean, that's a perfect example. Like, these last few records, they've been doing these 11-minute songs. It's like, cut it out, man. Like, you don't have enough interesting things to present in an 11-minute song. Like the stuff's great at like 5 minutes. The Trooper and, even Hallowed Be Thy Name. At least it's a long song, but there's interesting stuff throughout. Like, but you're not that band. And Metallica, to your point, Brian, you said it several times, there is fat to trim off. And I think some of these songs are like that, but it's not like it was with Hardwired, where those are entire songs you're like, what the hell are you thinking? Like, these are just not good. Whereas, the quote-unquote bad songs on this record aren't bad. There's not really a piece of crap in the lot, I think. The next one, Room of Mirrors, I don't have much to say about this one. I like the harmony guitar solos. That kind of has the old school, like, And Justice for All sound and feel to it. A little bit of Master of Puppets, I guess, in the vibe. But other than that, there's really, to me, it's just a song. So this is one of the ones that, like, I would say, do the little EP later that you just mentioned, Chris. So what are your guys' thoughts on Room of Mirrors?
I got it as an okay song. Probably would have left it off. It's really clear to me that they used the tempo change to mask Lars's complete inability to do anything with it.
Right.
So they just do tempo changes to mask that and make it seem like he's doing something. But it's pretty standard fare Metallica these days. It's what they've kind of become. And again, I do like the solo. I think Hammett's solo is pretty cool in here. But boy, he's pushing on that pedal like it's a gas pedal in a race. I mean, it's like, dude, ease up a little bit.
I agree with Brian. I can't stand how Kirk Hammett, like, his crutch is that damn wah pedal. It's like, and it's everywhere when that guy plays, and it's like, stop with the goddamn wah pedal, bro. Like, enough is enough. We get it. Like, like, oh, just cut it out. I'm with you, Brian. So.
Well, you picked up on this one, John. So there's the really cool outro solo, and you got the great guitar harmonies. The problem is, I've noted it on here. It takes 4 minutes and 44 seconds to get to that point.
Yeah.
So the first 4:43 is just a total slag. I mean, I think it. I don't hear a hook. I don't hear a riff. I don't hear any change in dynamics or tone whatsoever throughout that first 4:44, and that's the kind of stuff that just kills them. You don't have to go full Dream Theater or full whatever with giant orchestration or keyboards or anything, but you got to put some effort into twisting things around and or even just making, kind of like Chris was saying, like maybe put something in to almost trick you, making you think that it sounds better than it does, or mask what Lars can't do by doing something else,
Yeah.
But they don't do that at all on this song, and like, just leave it off. We know we're getting 12 songs, make it 11, make it, or I said I'd rather cut I forgot which one it was earlier, Chasing Light.
Light, yeah.
Yeah. Get it down to 10 songs, even if the three of us disagree on which 2 songs to cut, we all say, hey, let's make it 10 songs of like really pretty darn good stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This album would have been good at about an hour. About an hour, that's about, but there's definitely 17 solid minutes you can cut, if not a little more.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of minutes you can cut, I'm interested to get your guys' take on the final track of 72 Seasons. Is it Inamorata or Inamorata, whatever?
Skip-a-Marata.
Yeah, thank you. This is the other song that has kind of a Black Sabbath vibe to me. My main note says, does this song need to be this long? And again, the Lars thing, like, he does it in the beginning, and then after the second chorus, he does it again when the main riff comes in. He's going crash, 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 crash. There's just it's like a small child. Like, just if you put like the 2-year-old nephew on the drums and he just starts hitting the cymbal, that's all it does. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? You can't do it. I get it. It's really simple. There's not a lot to do there that would be. You can't get all busy and stuff, but you got to do something better than crash, 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 crash. Okay. Look. Jackal, I love Inamorata. This is why you're a damn fool, okay? Like, you worship at the altar of Ritchie Blackmore, who is highly overrated. And some of the records you post on your Facebook just are not good. You're like, oh, look at this classic. It was released on this day. Just stop it, Jim. This is a shit song. I know why you like it. And Cale McLeish says it. Like, Inamorata is the song that Black Sabbath is going to sue over. This is a Black Sabbath song. And it's, oh my God. I mean, seriously, honest to God, my note says, after the second chorus, what the hell is that constant just downbeat crash thing? That is drumming, asshole. So, but I will say the solo section, the middle's kind of like something that would come off of Master of Puppets. Like, it kind of had that type of feel. But yeah, Chris, I'm with you. Like, this is just, we'll talk about a clunker of an album closer. I mean, this is just not whatever.
Well, the reason it's so long is because this is Hetfield's divorce song. Het wrote this himself, and they just let him go. They just were like, okay, bro, this one means something to you. Go ahead. Personally, I liked it a whole lot better when Guns N' Roses called it Coma, because it follows Coma 100% stylistically. Big build up, middle deadness, leads back to the big build up in the end. It's Coma, and gee, what a surprise. They toured and heard him play Coma every night for a year. So, clearly that's where this idea came from. I find this to be incredibly overindulgent. I don't hate it, but it's one that I'll never listen to if I'm listening to the whole record.
Yeah.
I might listen to this as a one-off here and there, down the road, but I will get to Room of Mirrors. I'll be like, all right, what else do I got here? Oh, New Seven Dust. Boop, out. I will not tolerate another 11 minutes of this miserable blah.
Yeah.
It's like, nah. Pass. So yeah, it definitely ends the album on a sour note for me.
Yeah, I mean, Cale agrees. He says, love the song, but you're kind of right on Coma. Marcelo Ferreira, he agrees as well. Says exactly, Chris. I mean, Brian, where do you stand on this? It's,
you're going to be blown away by this.
Oh, dude,
I love it. It's the best song ever.
So as with each song, when it starts, I go 11:09, and it starts out, and it's a plotter, right? So I'm already scared. I'm like terrified, but I want to give them a chance. So once the main riff kicks in, I'm digging it. I love James' vocals on the verses. I think the riff in the verse works great. The chorus, I hate that stupid misery part. I think that's terrible. And John's right on the crash, but you left out once again. We got the hi-hat fills down like that are going on the title track. It's like oh hey I saw somebody doing it this at a Santana concert, so I thought I'd do it too. You know? But
Santana.
But the worst part about this song is that quiet vocal thing from James in the middle.
Yes.
And so this is what I wrote down, and I'm going to pat myself on the back for this because I like this line. So I'm trying to figure out if not being sure if this is cringeworthy is worse than just knowing it's cringeworthy.
Right.
But the thing is, you nailed it too, John. The solo. This is the absolute best musical moment on the entire album, and it goes back to Master of Puppets.
Yep.
And it harkens to Orion and Fade to Black. So we get that moment of like, oh my God, this is what these guys can be if they sit down and put their minds to it. And I don't totally hate this song at 9 minutes, maybe this would be okay. 11 minutes. Yeah, that's insane. But I actually do not mind the song at all. I think it's dumb to make it the last song on the album for sure. Very, very stupid.
Well, where would you put it?
Yeah, I don't know how you would sequence it otherwise.
Well, okay, let's rephrase. If it's the last song on the album, we're cutting 2 other songs like we said before, right? So if we do that, I'm okay with that. I guess let's put it that way. But yeah, I don't hate this because man, there's that moment of the guitars at the end there where I'm just like, God, this is what they used to do and they were the kings of this. And now it's like they have no idea how to do it except for like we found about 5 songs where they could do it for like, 30, 15 seconds here and there. But yeah, I don't know. I really like his vocals on this too.
Marcelo Ferreira says, "Gosh, Brian's musical perception of the world sounds unique."
Isn't she the one that was telling us how great Load and Reload was?
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong, Marcelo.
I think anytime you talk about Metallica, everybody's taste is called into question at some point.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
because we all hate something that somebody else likes.
Except for
the beauty of Metallica.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, like, I mean, Load and Reload and Saint Anger damn near don't exist to me, and I like Death Magnetic. I like it's back to being metal. Okay, Hardwired, cool, half of it's shit. But this one, I mean, I was driving home from work and I was giving it one last listen, and I realized that about halfway through, I kind of caught myself like, I'm actually enjoying this. Like,
where do you work, Atlanta?
Dude, I have a 10 minutes shy of an hour commute one way. So, but I skipped songs I knew really well. But like, I found myself listening to stuff going, I'm actually enjoying this. I'm not just doing this for research. So. Right. Like, and I haven't had that with a Metallica record in a long time. It's like, I listen to it because it's Metallica. I'm like, yeah, this is cool. But I don't go back to Hardwired. I don't go back to, Death Magnetic. This one, I feel like I might go back to.
Well, that's the true test, though. So we have to kind of be honest, and let's sort of meet up 6 months and just text like, hey, have you listened to it? And be honest, like.
Yeah.
Because I said that about the Queensryche, and I still dig it. I still think it's a great album, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back. If I can go back and listen to, let's say, half of this from time to time and still enjoy it, I'll consider that a win for me just because of how down on them I was.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, this album almost gets me over the Lars thing. Like, I can kind of put aside my hatred of Lars Ulrich because some of this stuff is really solid to me. And I really enjoy some of the riffs and the choices and stuff. And I think, mostly it comes from the fact that, this is like Hetfield is like kind of finally back. I said earlier, I kind of, pictured in my head Hetfield from 92, just in a black t-shirt and black jeans with the black guitar, like, drinking a beer and just hollering into the microphone, like roaring. And I could kind of picture it. It kind of fit, with the way he was delivering the vocals on this record and, the riffs especially. And this record really, I mean, the 2 records prior kind of felt like this. And Chris, you would know about this too because you're a huge fan. Like, but This one kind of really sounded like this was really a James Hetfield record saying, get the fuck out of my way. I'm James Hetfield. I write the Metallica songs. You just play what I tell you. This really sounds like, I'd say about 80% of this record is just Hetfield going, here, play this. You know, I mean, you don't even hear a ton of like crazy bass playing from Robert Trujillo, and that guy can play. But the couple songs where he's got like a little interlude where he can do some cool bass shit, he doesn't do cool bass shit.
Yeah, he's
and
just
so
playing.
Yeah, it's so
it's solid. I know I'll go back to it a million times. I mean, I'm the guy that still plays once every 3 months. I'm still listening to My World from St. Anger. So, I'm a Metallica guy. If Metallica does it, if they can shit on a fucking piece of plastic and I'll find a way to squeeze it into the player. I'm a Metallica fan. I will go back to this album. I guarantee if we check in 6 months, I'll look at my Spotify number and I'll have played it 100 times. Guaranteed.
Well, that's cool though.
that's
I love
awesome.
them. I love them and I'm happy. Like I said at the beginning, it convinced me to go to the shows. It literally convinced me to go to these shows and see both shows. So it's the best compliment I can give it is that I'm going to actually stay and see Metallica instead of bailing out just after Pantera, which was the initial plan.
Right. Jason Cluse, when you said if they put a piece of shit on plastic, I'd find a way to shove it in the player, says, wasn't that the load cover?
That was the unload cover.
Yeah, right. Nice. Oh my God. So Marcelo Ferreira says, one thing about what John just said, I think we got to let these musical releases grow on us. Even us, fans from back in the day, suffer a bit from today's hasty way of listening to music. Marcelo, I think that is an excellent point. Brian, you just mentioned the new Queensryche record, and I think that is a perfect example of this, Marcelo, because we did our deep dive into Digital Noise Alliance, and Chris, I don't where do you stand on that record? I mean, do you like it?
It's cool. I mean, it's not best, not the worst. It's okay. It's probably the best of the Laturi.
See,
stuff.
that's exactly my point. That is exactly what I thought about it. But then when I went and listened to it over and over again for the deep dive, I was like, no, this is really goddamn good. Like, I really dug almost all of that record. I was like, wow. And to Marcelo's point, I think he's right, because it's like you stream everything, you get it. You kind of think, especially like he said, fans from back in the day, in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, well, Operation Mindcrime, Rage for Order, Empire, whatever. And you kind of, okay, this is good. And you kind of move on. But I think if you really let it sit let it sit in your mind and your ears and kind of revisit it pretty frequently for a bit of time, you find that the stuff really can stand on its own with some of the classic material, I think.
I always argue that the reason we don't is because we don't have a physical product anymore. Back when we had a physical product, we would look, you take the album and you'd learn every word of it. And we knew who Bob Clearmountain was, or Greg Fiddleman, or whatever his name is from this record. And, you knew everything about these guys, where now it's like, see a picture. Hey, it's yellow,
I mean,
that's it.
The number of metal releases per week now is like 12 times what it was a year back in 9, and that's the other thing. Like, there's probably bands out there that, even though I think they're decent, like wouldn't even have gotten a sniff or a chance, 30 years ago. And we're overwhelmed,
I get 20 releases a day.
Yeah, I bet.
Every single day. I can't give them more than 30, 40 seconds half the time.
Right.
I give it like 2-3 songs, 30 seconds, and it better grab me if it wants me to download it. And if not, delete, gone, next.
Yeah.
And that's even some big bands. I'll tell you, band that I'm on record, I know John loves too. That fucking first Seven Dust song was like, nope.
I don't think they've done much good in like 3 albums, but
I like the last one, but they're just kind of
a little stale.
They need to get away from what's his name, the producer, Elvis Biscuithead, or whatever his name is, whatever his damn name is, that Elvis guy. They've worked with him too many records in a row.
Yeah.
Same with Alter Bridge, and now all their fucking records sound exactly the same.
I wish they'd get a new producer, Alter Bridge, for sure.
Yeah. But Alter Bridge and Seven Dust, both sets of records sound almost the same, because it's the same producer with the same ideas, same comfort zone. We know what he'll let us do.
Right.
Yeah,
bring in somebody harsh.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I'm one of those that's of the mindset, like, if I buy a Seven Dust record, I don't want to hear you like branching out, like, Queensryche going from, it's hard to say Promised Land to Here in the Now Frontier, because Promised Land started stepping out, away from the Empire sound. But even still, Here in the Now Frontier, you're like, what in Christ's name is this? Like, I don't want to hear a band that I like do that. It's, if you want to experiment a little bit, okay, fine. Like, like on this Metallica record, I said, Hetfield's using some different chords that are not normal for him,
Right.
and they're really not normal for any songwriters to sing over, because they're very harsh. But he did it. And it's like, I like hearing that kind of experimentation is like, okay, this is Metallica, but there's some cool shit that I've never heard. But that massive stylistic shift, I'm like, I don't need that. It's
I
not
agree.
interesting.
Agree.
Well, Chris, thank you very much for coming on and making the time,
Sure.
man. I know you've been laid up for several months, and originally you were supposed to just be like a voice, not a face. It was you're gonna be lying
I'm
in
good.
bed doing this, and here you are, man.
Yeah, I'm good. My arm is sort of working. I will be throwing a bag of ice on it here as soon as we're done. But yeah, I'm all right. I'll live.
Awesome. And Brian, great show. That Haken interview was killer, man. I really hope that if they do some more press, that we can definitely get Connor back on, because he was great. I will never live nice English there. I will never live down that answer of, I don't know, like 2 sentences. Like, I love the honesty of it. I'm like, that's beautiful. Like, he didn't try and bullshit. I thought that was cool, man. I'm into that sort of. It was very refreshing. There's no pontificating or anything. It was a real dude. And Chris, if they're ever doing press again, like, hopefully we can get them back on. We appreciate you hooking that up for us.
No problem. I know they're in town in 2 weeks. If you want to do the show live from the wherever, just let me know and I'll get you guys on the list.
Kind of fun, man. We'll have to think about that one. You know me and tech. That'd be. Am I just gonna hold up my phone? That's all I know.
That's all you need to do. Hold up your phone.
Right. Well, everybody else does that at shows,
Or
so why
just
not?
pre-record it on a Wednesday.
Yeah. Not a bad idea. Yeah.
Huh?
So to all you guys in the chat, thank you very much for tuning in. Circle J, Jason Kalous, Discuss Metal Joe, Kale McLeish, Marcelo Ferreira, even you, Jackal, I suppose. Quit hating on Cleveland sports. But yeah, no, seriously, Jim, great to see you, buddy. All you guys, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Talking Into Infinity. We will be right back here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 weeks from tonight on Thursday, May 4th. And we will be live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the CMS Network.com. So thanks, everybody. Remember, if you are watching on YouTube, click the like button, click the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. We're going to have some cool stuff coming up that might be off our normal schedule, so you're going to want to get notified if we go live. So make sure you go ahead and do that. And Brian, great show, man. Appreciate it. Chris, always awesome to share a mic with you. You are, as I always call you, the mighty Chris Akin. It was a great discussion.
You're right.
When am I not?
That's actually not what he calls you. I'll tell you off the air what he actually calls you.
Nice. Well, thanks again, guys, and to all you listening at home, watching at home, wherever the hell you're listening or watching. Appreciate you guys. Love you. And as always, Carpe Diem.